Hey everyone, welcome to our 13 podcast. I have the most awesomeness, Brian Goldstein. Welcome, brother.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been kind of long overdue. So, I'm going to have you start, man.
Have me start?
I'm going to have you start, man.
Oh, shit. All right, so what got you into knife making? I've always been curious about that question.
What got me into that? Well, it was like anything else at a very young age, of course, being exposed to pocket knives. I was always infatuated with firearms, knives, anything along those lines, archery. And as a kid, kind of growing up, there was a limited amount of access towards neat things. I remember, I think what got me into the knives probably kind of sealed my doom when it came to automatic knives. My mom went to Italy for one season. I think it was maybe 12. And my mom went to Naples, Gaeta, and some other areas. And when she came home, she brought me back 2 switchblades. She brought me back a red-handled NATO OTF, and she brought me back a small. It was almost like like the old style Italian, maybe a 5-inch knife or something like that. And I about fucking died. Those were probably the most coveted things I ever owned in my entire life, and I was hooked from that moment forward.
Do you still have them?
I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. I collected knives all the way up until my teens before I left home. I had an incident where I had from my age and everything else, had a pretty moderate knife collection that got stolen from our house.
Damn.
It was I have a sister, and her boyfriend, apparently he was the one that was accused of taking the pieces, but cleaned me out, man. Cleaned me out. I lost all my knives, including those. So
that's horrible.
Lost some heirlooms, but I had, for that level, it was probably a very neat collection, but always been infatuated with pocket knives and cutting tools, but man, those there in specific were the ones that were like, oh my God, this thing fires out the front. I mean, it's probably a cheap piece of shit thing anyway, but to me, it was like,
this is
like
amazing.
The fucking holy grail, because I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And my mom's like, you know what? She's like, when she gave me these, she's like, oh my God, please be very careful. And you have no idea what I had to fucking do to get these back through customs. And, come to find out at a later date, she wrapped them up in whatever, put them in a tampon or did fucking whatever to get these things smoked back through. That was
long before their smart checks now.
I know, right? And hid it in her luggage. But it was really cool that she thought of me and brought these back for me. It's something I'll probably never forget. But
so it's your mom's fault?
I'm thinking it's mostly mom's fault, at least on the autos. I've always been into pocket knives, but never really had any, experience with like an automatic or a switchblade. So those were just like, oh my God, I couldn't freaking believe it. And, but no, as that progressed over the course of time, I was always had a very, very big interest. I remember living in Newport Richey, Florida, and those areas there. And they would, at the mall, they used to have a place called the Cutlery Shop. And it was just a really great store in the mall. It wasn't like a kiosk or, like center of the mall thing. It was a real store. And they would have like Almars and all these high-end knives. And I remember seeing knives, like Cold Steel and everything else and Spyderco. And it's just like looking at these pieces and going, oh my God, I can't believe that piece costs $100. I mean, because back in the, early 80s, it was like back in, 85 and 86, it was just like $100 was hard to come by. So it was just
like $400 or $500.
Yeah, exactly. But I was always infatuated. Did a lot of work on the gunsmithing side, but it eventually developed into me, having a better understanding of machine tools, being interested in machining in general. And that's when I got interested in maybe making a knife. And what kind of prompted that is I can't remember the actual year, but it was a convention that used to be held in Orlando. It was called the SOF, or Soldier of Fortune Convention. I don't know if they hold it anymore or anything. Went to that convention, and if you remember, Almar introduced a switchblade at that convention. I have one up in my collection. I forget the actual name. And that knife inevitably became a version of what's being offered by Benchmade today. I remember those opening up on a Saturday, and people were just in line to buy these knives. It was like $325 or $350 he was selling them for. I don't know how many hundreds he sold out, but he sold out. And I was just like shitting myself to get one of these knives. Because other than that, it was just like typically the old plastic OTF knives or the Florida black knife, or that was about it, and some early Benchmade stuff. But that particular piece was just like way next level, and everybody was buying them and they were flipping them at the show. And all my buddies, who had money, because I typically hung out with guys who, nice cars, beautiful girls. I was always the youngest out of group. They always had, high paying jobs or a little bit of money. Could, guy walk up, it's like, dude, I got 3 of these and I flipped them. It's like, I'm like, fuck you all. I really wanted one of those knives bad. And I remember telling one of my buddies, his name Wayne Seidel, and I was like, Wayne, I'm going to make knives one day and y'all could stuff it up your ass. He's like, yeah, when you do that, I'll buy one. So it kind of planted the seed. It's just like I was so upset that I couldn't get one of these pieces. There was no way to just like scrounge up that kind of money for no other reason. But it planted that seed in my head. It's just like, you know what? I've been dabbling with machine tools, you know, working at some machine shops, odd jobs, stuff like that. I wanted to get out of construction. It was just like, so I thought about dabbling with it, and I did for a little bit. And then it manifested a little bit over time. You know, I never thought I'd be, making knives as a living, but it was just something as a passion to say, you know what, I think I could fucking do it. And, and it kind of progressed from there. As I showed you up in my librry, I had that very first piece. It was a freaking disaster. It didn't even work. I didn't even grind the blade, so I didn't know. I mean, contrary to, what a lot of people have an opportunity today. I mean, the information superhighway, the internet, YouTube, all these different things.
None of that existed back then.
None of that existed. So you either had to talk to people or you had to figure some shit out on your own. So it was a matter of picking up a Blade magazine or picking up a, Knives Illustrated or something, going to the classifieds and talking to makers, or going to the show and associating that ad with a maker. And if they'd be willing to talk to you, some of them are like, hey man, go pound sand, have a nice day. I remember talking to Chris Reeve, and he was just like, dude, and he was always very so blunt to me, but he was always very informative on wanting to be able to teach and give back. But it was always that old South African kick-ass dude, Legionnaire, everything else. And he's just like, hey, Chris, what is the secret of your success? Well, first you start out with a fucking can of elbow grease, and I was like, here we go. So he was always just very blunt, and I always respected that. But he, took a liking to me and shared me some things and some, gave me a couple tips that I was really able to put to play. And then eventually, working with me over the phone. I remember, you've seen the grinder upstairs, remember trying to figure out how to sharpen knives or grind blades. And, I got this guy on the freaking phone, with the cord hanging out through the back of the porch, and having this guy try to walk me into, grinding blades, and fucking yelling at me in the background. And it's just like,
this is when you wish FaceTime existed.
Yeah. Like 1,000,000%. Think about where Microtech would be today if I had FaceTime back then. Right. Or anything for that matter. But that's what kind of started it. And, as I first developed that first knife, it caught a lot of attention. It was like, after I didn't end up making one, everybody would look at it and go, oh my God, man, I'd love to have something. You made that? And it's just like, yeah, I made it. And they're like, well, I mean, that's just really cool. And then it got kind of progressed from there. The knife actually, at the time, I believe, I was working for Knight's Armament, and we even presented Reed that knife to say, hey, look at, I think it was Doug Olson at the time, because Doug was great. He worked for Buck, he worked for AWC. Guy's like one of my mentors. Same with Reed. And, everybody thought that Reed was an asshole. Have 180 something employees. I know Reed's got hundreds more, but back in the day, nobody gets it until you have your own employees and you got to make payroll, and you got nuts to get, or nuts to make on your payroll, and bills to pay and everything else. And you have to get things done. I could see why being a little bit of a hard ass, plus the customers that they had at the time are a little bit more stringent than the ones we have today, because we're all kind of military driven. But, I remember Doug saying, hey, look at, pocket knives, flashlights, maybe a commercial suppressor line, maybe a commercial AR line. And a lot of the guys at the facility were like, imagine if Knights would have embraced that at the moment. Imagine if they would have released SR-15s to the populace, or imagine if they would have released that stuff for commercial use, suppressors, any of that stuff, pocket knives. They don't own the fucking market, dude. They don't own the market in spades. Not like they don't own it already, but I'm just saying, imagine if it would have been more prevalent for them to be a little bit open, because a lot of people in engineering thought, well, hey, we do these contracts, we do everything else, but they're kind of short-lived. Pocket knives are here to stay. And, at the time, I don't think Reed would see it or would have it, as part of the lineup, which I understand, He later on went on to explain to me that you can't serve two masters. And I get that today. What we do is, you can get too many irons in the fire, you could do too much, and then something's going to give. So you gotta go all in, or pick and choose your battles. But, the knife caught some attention at one of the knife shows that we went to inadvertently. And the guys are like, we're going to go to a knife show, bring your little micro knife, and we're going to go have fun. And it caught enough attention where I was solicited to the point where they're like, one particular big distributor at the time said, hey, look, here's your contract. I'd like to buy 10,000 of those little micro mini knives that you got. And I was like, oh man, maybe I should consider it. And it was a lot of the guys that I worked with that prompted me along to say, look, you should maybe consider making this piece. And it's like, how how the fuck am I going to do this?
How am I going to make 10,000
Yeah,
units?
how am I going to make this? And they're like, look, you can make the parts out on the outside. You can do some different things and keep your job if you can. And of course, I was given an ultimatum to either stand down on the knives or quit. But we started making the knives out of the apartment, and it was an overwhelming response to what they actually received. And then the market kept continuously challenging us back to say, look, if you could build that, could you build this? Could you build one bigger? Hey, what do you think about one that shoots out the front? And a lot of it came from, we did, had a little bit of a trail of military end users and stuff like that. They would give us some great ideas. I mean, the original Halos were not to be used as weapons. It was just, cut you out of your chute, do whatever. Something that wasn't a sheath knife that could open, under constant pressure, open underwater, open whatever. It served its purpose for what it was, and it filled a really interesting niche in the marketplace. So each time the industry would come back to kind of challenge us to a certain extent, it's like, hey man, if they're willing to pay us, we should consider it. So like even the SOCOM, SOCOM knife, which is probably our highest grossing seller year to date still, after 20 years, 20 years, it's still hot, even though it's a newer adaptation. But, that's how we've been able to evolve the company. But it wasn't something that I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm just going to make knives and this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life.
So it's been an evolving process.
It's been an evolving process. Absolutely.
Over the last several decades.
Absolutely. 100%.
How's it feel to have one of the most well-known knife brands out there and amassed, 185 employees, like 5 different locations and still growing? I know from running my own business, having multiple locations, employees everywhere, it's a fucking nightmare. How do you keep it all together?
I mean, it's, by second nature. Again, it's one of those things that I've done most of my adult life to begin with anyway. There was no rule book for me. There was no schooling. Unfortunately, I had to, go to the school of hard knocks to be able to figure out where we're at. But I think at the time it was our ability, like I would mention, of us surrounding ourselves with good people. I mean, it's like anything else. There's nobody that typically comes out of the knife industry. Usually sometimes it's been good, sometimes it hasn't been, but you get somebody outside of the industry, might have worked in automotive, might have worked in another field, might have worked in injection molding, might have worked in, like the accountants that we have now internally. I mean, they work for some of the best firms in the, I consider on the Eastern Seaboard. And that's the kind of mentoring that we needed. And so it just what allowed us to become successful is just our ability to network our own employees, make a lot of it in-house, kind of control our destiny, even though it's been extremely difficult. In manufacturing just in general, but no, I would have never fathomed that we would have been to this level at this point. But it's like that survival mode. A lot of people are like, well, Tony's greedy. It's not a matter of greed, really, in all reality. It's a matter of survival skill. When I took on, moving my family to Vero Beach to take a position at Knight's Armament, it was my, wife at the time, Susan, Tony, and Sean, the mommy cat that we had, and that was it, and everything that we could load in that fucking Buick was in that car, and there was no rich uncles, there was no go to your parents' house, there was no, well, just come stay with us for a little while. There was like, no, I went there and the old man gave me a shot and he's like, look, you could stay in the fucking trailer. Here's $1,200. He goes, by the way, I've never loaned anybody money in my life, not even my own kids, but I like you. And it's just like, he gave me a shot, and for that matter, it was a big deal for us, but that's what we had. I am grateful for that because it taught me a lot about a lot of things. It taught me to appreciate working at a factory where the guys gave me some flexibility to be, intuitive, but also work hard and be somewhat rewarded for what I was doing. If I would have never prompted the knives, I'd probably still be working for Knight's Armament today. It was exciting to me. It was a field that I really, really loved, and I did it 1,000%, or at least I tried. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it's at.
It's always crazy to see, though, at every Blade show I've been to this year.
Yeah.
Your booth gets slammed in a minute, and it just doesn't end. All 2 days, it's just nonstop.
Yeah, like I was saying, I might have gotten in a different direction, but it's just like that survival skill, being able to provide for a family or families has been my priority. And sometimes it's always worked against my, worked against my normal lifestyle, because even at a later date, after we came a point where I could have maybe kicked back a little bit, and even my wife at the time, she's like, look, you could settle down a little bit. You don't have to run 1,000,000 miles an hour. And it's like, I've often questioned, it's like, I don't know how. It's just like, we have been in this, the dragon's been on my ass all my fucking life. how do you get out of this, this survival mode? So
I don't think it ever leaves us.
I don't think it ever leaves us as an entrepreneur. So it's just a matter of that we continue to drive forward. We're doing it very strategically. But now my objective, being the size of our company, is to continue to kind of dominate my industry. As I've often told people, we do play by the rules, but we don't play fair. And you know what that means. I mean, it's just being strategic and being a little bit lethal in business. And we're very cognizant. But, we're grateful. We take everything into consideration that we're successful because of, the customer base that we have. And, of course, the amazing staff that we continue to grow upon. Because creating jobs right now is not easy. I don't care what you do.
Getting employees right now is not easy.
Just in general, you have to be you have to create like even though we're at such a corporate level, you still have to have that family atmosphere.
And that's what it felt like touring the facility with Ray today.
Good.
Like,
that makes everybody's happy. We see it every day because some people, I want to choke them, but I love them. They're mine.
Everybody seemed excited to be at work. Like nobody had a grumpy face. No. Everybody was saying hi. The place is kept spotless. Like you run an amazing ship.
We try, and it's due to the fact that we got a good crew, and hopefully we can continue to recruit. Like I said, good strategic management, SOP and procedure. Me not driving the company from fucking emotion. It's just there's a difference into what we're doing. But it's been a hard road. It's been a hard road, and I think for anybody trying to generate a business, it's like anything else. You got to want it to the point where like you're drowning in that pool and you want to breathe, man. You got to want it just like that.
And like we even said last night, like you're preparing for next year. You're checking the recession, making sure you're not overspending in certain areas.
That's right.
It never stops, and that's what people don't realize.
No.
And even though you've built a huge multi-million-dollar company, you're still worried about that stuff.
Absolutely,
which
100%.
You have to be.
Yeah. Just it's a matter of strategy, and saying about 2023. From what we're seeing from the level of economies, I've had a good opportunity to at least travel abroad and get everybody else's views, not just the views here in the United States, the views in Europe, and talk to our counterparts over in Asia and everything else. I think it's not going to be, I'm not that kind of person that just like, romps on disaster or anything along those lines, but there's going to be some hardships. I'm starting to feel the pinch a little bit in the areas where we're just watching how our customers are spending.
Do you see a little bit of a slowdown?
100% across the board. 100%.
Even before the holiday season?
100%. I mean, we started seeing some difference in how our customers were reacting probably at the end of this last year, at the beginning of the quarter for 2022. And we implored our people to start taking some evasive action just to be a little bit closer to our customers. There's some secrets of the mix that I won't disclose because we have a strategy behind what we're doing, but it's evident, dude. I mean, it's evident that some things are going to start getting a little interesting. But then again, I think about it. I don't worry. It's just a matter of like planning, during the hurricanes, if you're coming, you batter down the doors, you buy some extra milk and food for the kids, and you prepare. So the COVID was the same thing. As soon as we caught wind of it, we took evasive action to take, some precaution. And a lot of that wasn't just buying frickin' throwaway masks and frickin' hand sanitizer. That was buying raw materials. That was making strategic alliances with our material suppliers. We knew that whatever was coming was coming.
You knew the supply chain was going to get choked.
The supply chain was going to get choked. And even some of the people within my organization at the time laughed me off the fucking podium. Fuck you all, because I was right. Do I not get my Porsche freaking whatever and my G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip for Christmas? That's fine. But what I do have is I have enough raw materials to supply all the way till 2024. For me, that's golden, because if I got the materials, I can make anything.
And you got old pricing, not new price.
That is correct.
So, because I'm sure by the time you reorder again mid next year, the prices have doubled, if not tripled. Absolutely.
I mean, what we're looking at now is as our people are planning, they're planning from, at least it's hard to project. It is so hard to project because there's no secret to anything. But, could I go wrong? It's like a lot of people are like, well, you should invest in this. You should invest in that. No, I invest in raw materials. How could I ever go wrong?
Even if you decided to close Microtech tomorrow, the raw materials.
Yeah, man. If I have 80,000 frickin' pounds of frickin' M390, MK, I'm good to go. MK, by the way, is the new actual adaptation of the steel that we're doing that was tweaked from Microtech. But M390 from Bowler, as good as it gets. I'm happy to have that material because we may not be able to tell what SKU we're going to be running at that time, but having the raw material is I think is key for us. It really is. It really is. Yeah. So investing in our employees, investing from the internal out has been where we've been at. So it's been that way since even before the COVID, but we went into it really deep. And it, like I said, it took every bit of residual cash that we had on reserve, not only to take care of our people when we had the shutdowns, but also to secure the pricing and everything else to make sure that we would be okay abroad. And again, there was no guarantee, Okay, so they make the steel and they can't get it over here by boat. It could have been a problem. So we have a strategy where we keep X amount of tonnage of material at the mill. We keep X amount of material tonnage at the distributor in Maine. We keep X amount of tonnage in Bradford, and we keep X amount on reserve here in North Carolina. So, the steel that's sitting on our floors is not even for this year or even next year. So that's what gives us a little bit of, foresight into what we're doing. It does, man. I hate that because, if you have a particular material that they can crush you on, I mean, that could hurt you. I remember back in the day when I was in my apartment, why did Tony Marfione start buying machines? My wife and I at the time had more machines. We didn't even own our own fucking home till we were 30 years old because we had mortgages on equipment. It's because every time some jackass that was an OEM vendor couldn't supply a part, nobody else cared. The guys that made blades, the guys that made handles, the guys that made this, the guys that made the boxes, when it was time to get paid, it's like, hey, well, my screws didn't come in. Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I made your blades, bro. Did you like them? They're good. They're good quality. Fucking pay me. So it's like, well, okay. Well, there's one machine closed. We've got to take on space and go buy a lathe to make screws or to make buttons or to make handles. And that's why it's still an upward challenge today, but at least there are our own internal problems. And I'd rather have them than to have to be worried about fucking some, Strunzalot's fucking making my screws and can't get it done right. No, there's a lot of companies. I know a lot of guys out there that are like, what's up, man? Why didn't you get your shit? It's like, man, I didn't get my shit in time. Or I didn't get this. Or it's just like, hey, I couldn't get the screws, or I couldn't get this. I hear it all the time.
It was crazy seeing today how you guys make everything minus the springs. That's right.
And if there's an issue on the springs, we'll bring those in too if we had to, even though that's a dying art. For a lot of people that think, well, Tony Marfione, they just assemble the stuff. No, dude.
No, you guys are making every single part.
We make in the 98th percentile of our stuff. Now, granted, I got a couple pieces that I make on the outside, but we're very transparent that we do that. But as far as our automatics and the pieces that are slated here for U.S., they're done in our factories on our soil. Now we have a little bit of OEM, but it's right up the road from us, or maybe in PA. It's all American made, man. It's all American made.
No,
and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. Yeah. So, bro, tell me about you.
Me?
Yeah, where you been?
Just a guy. What do you want to know?
I don't know, man. I mean, we met, we met through our channels.
Yep, through Henry.
Yeah, through those guys, and got a chance to meet you, caught a really good vibe from you and everything else. But I know you do a lot of amazing things. You keep it on the low keel and stuff like that. But tell us what you want us to know.
Yeah. So I was in healthcare for 17 years. Operated and owned pharmacies that specialize in HIV and hormone replacement therapy. Operated in 20 plus states.
Wow.
Had employees in all the states, everywhere. Recently exited, and I'm over healthcare. But during that time, I had made some good money, so I bought a lot of cool cars and used those to gain publicity on social media to build a large following.
Okay, cool.
And then me and my friends started a clothing brand together. And it was 13 guys who were all worth a fair amount of money.
Sure.
A lot of ego started budding, and one day I just kind of said, all right, I'm out. I'm done. And I was like, well, I like guns. I've always been a gun guy. My dad got me into shooting. Let's start putting gun content with car content and just do my own thing. And it started to take off. And I never really treated it like a business, though.
Yeah.
I worked with companies that I liked, talked to people I liked. If I didn't believe in the product, I wouldn't do it. And so just continued making fun content, getting into the gun world, working with Recoil, working with guys like you, just have opened a lot of doors to other people just because, hey, you know this guy and you also know this guy, and we all work together to create something fun.
Yeah, I adore Recoil, man. Those are it's a great crew. Great crew. I love those guys.
And I've just learned, like, it's a small industry. You got beef, shut up, and go about your thing.
I like that. So you say cars, man. What's your favorite? I'm sure
R34 Skyline.
Nice.
I know Jess loves it.
Yeah.
She's dying to come out to LA when it's ready, and maybe we should come out with you when we go to that event in February. And
tell me. I forget. What is the event in February that I'm going to? You don't know?
Some guy said be somewhere in February.
All right, cool. Dude, make sure I'm there. I'll love to come out.
I'll make sure you're there. I'll coordinate with Jess and them.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You know, I haven't been out to Cali in a bit, you know, but, you know, it's a beautiful area. It's been a minute.
So you can't really sell your OTFs to California, though.
You know, we have Cali Legal, which is based on a blade length, which is legal. I think a model that we have, I think the Cali Legal X70 and also the Exocet version is also something that we sell in the California area.
But it's not illegal to have at home. You just can't be out and...
Zip on that one there. You know, I can't quote any legality as far as that's concerned. It's unfortunate. You know, you'll see warning labels on everything that we do because, you know, of some of the rules and things that they've set in California on, you know, supplying goods and saying, hey, this stuff will cause you cancer and all this other bullshit and stuff like that. But, you know, I remember California back in the earlier days of things when guys could have assault rifles, they could have all this stuff.
You could have everything.
You could have everything. And if it was still the same, I'd probably live out there and I'd have a factory out there too because it's a beautiful country.
No, you wouldn't. You don't want to pay California taxes.
No, I don't want to pay California taxes. But just beautiful area. I like the wineries. I've been out to Yosemite and stuff like that. So it's always been a...
we got some good wineries.
Simi Valley. I won't mention Simi Valley. But had a good time for what it was worth. You know, and everything.
That's always fun. Yeah. You know, no matter what. Good memories. Absolutely
good memories. Stuff that I'll never forget. But... You know, getting back to what I was saying about, you know, being in that survival mode, that'd be the only thing that I would have is you know, could we be still successful in where I'm at today if I'd have worked a day less or, you know, everything else? I mean, I won't be on my deathbed figuring one day, taking my last breath going, holy shit, I should have stayed at work a little while longer. You know, so that's the thing, you know, finding that equilibrium and balance. I'm just starting to learn that now. That you know, our lives are but just a blip or a glimpse, dude. And you know, you got to make those moments, especially for what's true to your heart. Think about what you're going to be thinking about on your deathbed, and that'll show your heart where you need to be. And that's all I have, because a lot of people ask, you know, the matrix of success. I think taking the time, you know, if I would have put myself a little bit more further ahead for myself personally, I think I could have served my family and served my employees and customers a lot better. You know, here I'm thinking I'm doing the great thing by just pounding it day after day, 7 days a week and everything else, putting myself at risk, putting myself at bad health, putting myself in the wrong mindset. You know, in all reality, we were getting it done, but at what cost, you know?
Have you slowed down at this stage?
No, we have not. From a business standpoint, the mechanism, I have gotten to the point where I've had some life-changing experiences over the last 5 years. You know, some from spiritual, some from a physical, and some from, of course, an emotional standpoint in my life, which has allowed me to better understand where I place myself. You know, do
you find yourself more at peace by doing that?
I think so, and I need to continue to work on that, because I often tell people, you know, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. You know, and I am finding that I find that harmony to find that time with myself to be able to explore and everything else, that I don't often have to be, you know, accompanied at this point, because having those expectations have led to nothing but heartbreaks. But I'm okay with that. But I'm often also looking forward to the next adventure, the next person that I can maybe meet, whether it be a new friend or a new accomplice, new anything, to just say, hey, look, I want to, you know, and I'm not shutting myself off, but I'm finding that I'm willing to be a little bit more exploratory on meeting new people and exploring new places in the world, and just finding some peace for myself. I mean, I did the best I could to try to take off the month of December, and I did okay. And guess what? You know, this is probably the most concentrated amount of time that I focused on myself And guess what? Our team still hit the nut. They still got it done. They still kicked ass, and they were actually happy to see me when I got back. So, I think taking that bit of time, everybody that knows me knows I'm not going to sit on the couch and watch fucking TV all day or any of that sort of thing. Although, having some couch time is not a bad thing.
No, a little bit here and there.
A little bit here and there in low doses for me, but I don't like to sleep the day away. But as far as being able to take some time for myself, has probably been the best thing I could possibly do, So some of the circumstances that led up to that point were just like, hey, you need to get yourself in gear and you need to get your freaking priorities in straight and in check. Your job and your work is not done, but, I need to be 100% up here and 1,000% here before I could serve the rest of the people that mean the world to me.
Exactly. Got to make sure your cup is full to be able to give out.
Exactly. So, I... got a beautiful, I got a lot of
progress made over the years.
A lot of progress, and the blessings. I count them every day. So I don't take nothing for granted.
No, even divorce for some people cripples them just mentally, where they don't want to push forward, and you were still able to
100%
make it through and continue to grow the business and build the brand even more to a higher level.
Absolutely. So that's what we're going to continue to try to explore, is to see, a level of strategy. We had an opportunity this morning, as I was telling you, I was doing the first part of the bullet point planning going out for the first 2 quarters of next year. And it was tricky because our team, even though I didn't want to hear some of this shit, actually pointed out some stuff that I know we need to get, we need to emphasize and we need to get squared away. It's not stuff that'll tip the boat to the point where people will be falling out, but we need to probably, strategically plan as hard as we ever have for this upcoming year. But even my son agreed, my son Sean, we all agreed that maybe, standing fast, emphasizing what we have in process, emphasizing the expansions that we have right now rather than going a little bit further outside of just digging in our heels for this year, refining our processes, refining our, the matrix of what we do internally at Microtech to make it work. So it's going to be kind of an awakening for a lot of us here, including myself. If I expect other results, I can't keep doing the same old bullshit. So, exactly. We're bouncing off a lot of our people that are continuing to challenge me. And I love it because it aggravates me to no fucking end. But I got a lot of people that have been able to say, look, these are the things that we think we need to fix, and this is why. Rather than sitting there, like pointing the finger and going, well, this is wrong and this is fucked up and this is not going right. I had people that says, hey, look, these are some things, areas that we know that we're having some deficiencies, and here's the suggestions that we propose to give you the options to make the decision going forward. And I love that, but inevitably sometimes these are decisions that are extremely hard to do because it's a gamble, dude. They gave me the good options, but it's like option A, this is where we can go, this is the ramifications. Option B, this is where we can go. This is the ramifications. There's no, hey, if you choose C, everything's going to be just fucking peachy.
Well, you could have just got a job.
I could have.
You chose the hard way.
It seems like I do that often. It seems like
every entrepreneur.
No, I got that, man. And it's like like anything else, I have a tendency to create my own storm. So I'm working on that too,
Sometimes we like the chaos.
Sometimes,
my phone's not going crazy. I'm like, what's wrong?
What's wrong? Something's off.
Something's off.
Something's off.
Like after I sold my business, like my phone stopped ringing 100 times a day.
Yeah.
Like the first 3 months, I'm like, fuck, I did this for 17 years. Now what? Like, this is just weird waking up and not really having a place to go.
I got you. Well, I even like what you said at dinner last night. Cause I'm like, B, why do you got 2 phones, bro? And you're like, look at, this is where I'm at family wise, and this is the other one. When I need to shut this one off, I just set it aside. I like that. I like that a lot.
Because I don't want to be distracted at dinner with other nonsense. And you have a little girl now, and
sure,
you want to have that bond, and you don't want to be stuck on your phone wasting time when you can't buy that time back.
You cannot.
It doesn't matter how much money you have.
100%.
And so being there for the little moments, and my wife's always reminding me, hey, you're not going to get this time back. It doesn't matter how much money you make or don't make. The bills will still be there. The jobs will still be there.
This is correct.
Cherish the moments with your daughter. So I grew up in a home where my parents were never there.
Gotcha.
They gave me every toy I ever wanted, but they weren't there. And I want different for my child. And unfortunately, I fall into that same habit, so I have to be reminded of it regularly.
Yeah, I like that. No, you'll never get it back. I mean, my oldest son Tony, he's in his 30s. I mean, we kind of grew up together, so I miss it, But
and he's now making knives himself, correct?
That's right. My son Tony has a company. Him and his wife Jessica founded Heretic Knives and kind of followed a little bit of the footprint of what we've done and what he's learned over the years. But he's done a really good job.
Is he based out here as well?
No, he's in Palm Bay, Florida.
Okay.
So Palm Bay. And they do a really good offering of some very, neat pieces and everything along those lines. But and that's the second thing. I see my son, I see him, him and his wife both. I mean, they get it, but they work their asses off like no other. And that's the only thing that I've been trying to tell my son as of late, not to let the business take a back seat, but I mean, he knows. Look at Dad. I ran this company from behind a fucking grinding wheel for years, and I still do sometimes.
You still grind?
I still grind because that's what I do. I enjoy it. But my son, it's just like, okay, son, all right, you're kicking some ass, but it's just like you're formatting the engineering, you're formatting this, you're monitoring your crew, you're making sure the guys are getting it done. You're making sure your second's going. You're sharpening the knives. You're assembling. It's just like it's a vicious cycle. I'm like, my fear is my son having a fucking stroke.
Just from pushing too hard.
He fucking pushes to the max.
Do you ever see you guys joining forces?
I don't know. There's always a possibility. I mean, there's always a succession plan for Microtech. I mean, so inevitably, who knows? There's always that possibility.
Or your daughter.
Yeah. Little itty bitty something else, but I think, succession planning in a lot of different areas is something that's been a great deal of concern for myself. I had a discussion with my son just recently, because it's like, okay, I croak tomorrow, you kids split all this, and then what? What, you going to compete Heretic Knives against your family company? So we got to be careful on how we structure that because my son really carries a certain amount of a strong level of DNA of who I am personally, and is almost like a carbon copy when it comes to strategy and business and all these things. So, we are happy that he's doing what he's doing, but I pay a close amount of attention to what he is. So yes, I mean, we enjoy the competition, we enjoy everything else, and I get it that his company's growing, but that's not the major concern. My biggest issue is that he's killing him and his wife both. They work so fucking hard. It makes my heart sad. Yeah.
I get you. Well, maybe one day you can convince him to,
not kick back. It's just, I'm just saying.
No, maybe roll his brand into yours somehow as, a different.
It would be interesting because, everybody wants to have their own identity and everybody wants to do their thing. And I get that. And I respect it totally.
I get it.
But it's just like fucking, okay, just like Sean's objective. I mean, Sean will probably, take my position over the course of some time. Maybe, my daughter Sydney will integrate back in. Who knows, maybe Adam. But, there needs to be some level of succession because that concerns me.
Yeah,
that concerns me in a big way.
I took the business over from my father and took it from a very small thing to something very huge and something he would have never dreamed of. And it's always cool to see, my dad never admitted he was proud of me till the end, but it was cool to see that he cared so much that I took his baby and didn't just throw it in the trash.
Yeah. That's amazing. But yeah, either way, I mean, that's why I say, for, people that love to hate us or love us or don't, the lineage of this company is going to live on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's no getting around that there. Whether people like Tony Marfione or not, this fucking company is going to live on for generations. And whether it be through Heretic Knives or my son or whatever else, the Marfione brand or that stigma around, making a high quality product, because that's Tony's thing too, man. He's striving to make the very fucking absolute best that he could do. And, and I'm glad. I don't regret being hard on that boy, because I know that whatever he's going to do, he's going to succeed at. All the kids in general, I don't lose a fucking ounce of sleep at night knowing that each one of these kids is poised in position and well astute enough to be able to succeed at what they're doing. They're going to make their mistakes. They're going to crash. They're going to fall on their ass. But I'm happy the way that Susan and I raised these kids to the point where they understand a hard day's work, even though, you get Tony and Sean are in a totally different dimension as far as, when they were born compared to like Adam and Sydney, a totally different work ethic. Tony and Sean grew up in the factory. They did, from little kids. I mean, they were just babies, and
I think I met Sean today.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, of course. So they grew up in the factory, Adam and Sid too as well, but they didn't have to be nearly as exposed to the overnight stays at the factory, work until midnight. And that was another thing too that I commend, both, taking the initiative, as we always ate together and everything else. That's a big thing. That's a very big, powerful thing for a family. A lot of families don't eat together, or they don't congregate together. You fucking eat together as a family, man, even if it's late. So, the two oldest boys grew up in the factory from the ground up. Tony learned, did every odd job from everything, and he's become an amazing craftsman. And Sean the same way. I mean, I have the highest level of respect for Sean because of the amount of work. But I just told him today, is like, son, I love what we do, and I love what you do, but there needs to be some level of succession planning going forward. I could croak fucking tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's never promised.
Tomorrow is never promised. But I feel confident, taking off the month. I needed to do that to get past some,
sometimes you just, got to just step away.
I stepped away because I create my own storms, got out of a really, really, really toxic relationship that really broke me to as worse as a man can be broken. And it's just like, before I go back to the table, I need to fucking take some time to heal myself and get my priorities straight.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I know that. And you know what? I don't regret it. It is what it is, but it's a learning experience that I don't take back. I mean, to grow and to learn, you got to have some level of pain.
But society's made it where it's almost not okay to take that time.
I took it. I wasn't, I think I did good. I think I did good for the month, and I'm almost there, so, but the neat thing about it is I am so proud of my crew. I'm proud to the fact that they kept me informed. They let me do my thing. They, put out the fires, they kept me abreast of serious situation, but all the rest of them, they didn't inundate me, like they do when I'm there. So I'm proud of my crew and the direction that they've gone into. So I got to say, out of the 27 years, 28 years I've been doing this thing, I am probably the most proud of the people. Every single bit of people that I've brought on board into Microtech now really want to be there. And when you look at them, you could see they're fucking looking in that same direction. And that's so key. Granted, we've had our issues. We got a low tolerance. My bullshit filter is like about this big. And I think for a lot of people, even my son Tony, I think we had a discussion at the Nashville show. He's like, Dad, we're having a sandwich and a fucking beer. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go in and clean house on Monday. I was like, good for you, son. I get it. I've been there. But, because when you get to that point where, I used to allow that to bother me so much. I would get upset working along with people. Man, it's like, you don't got to fucking work here. This is not a slave labor camp.
No,
you get paid, you're compensated. If you're not happy, like I've said before, at times people are like, well, Mr. Marfione, you're so difficult to work for. And I'm like, why? Well, you just expect, I expect you to show up on time? Or I expect you to fucking do your job and not be on fucking, OnlyFans on my time or Facebook or whatever else. Or, I expect you to, do your job while you're here. And it's like, you don't have to like me. And, I mutually respect people within an organization. You do this job for your family. I remember when I was smacking chicken and freaking bussing tables, I did it 1,000%. I knew it wouldn't be the last job I would ever have, but I carried that ethic over to the next position, and that's why it allowed me to be successful. So when we find people that have this very extremely strong work ethic, I don't give a fuck who you are, what race you come from, as long as I can communicate with you, okay, and as long as you have that work ethic, you can do anything. Some of the greatest people inside the confines of the Microtech organization came from something totally benign from knife making. And it interests me because they're into it. They dig it. They own it.
Oh, yeah.
And I fucking love that.
Everybody you have around is just amazing. Their stories are amazing. You got Jess, you got Ray, and everybody else we've met while we here.
100%. And you could just go down the line, man. That's why I love coming in after taking time off and I go on. It's like, they're so happy to see me. It's like I'm fucking Santa Claus. Santa! It's just like, that's how I like that feeling. Come in, shake hands. Hey, how you doing? Boom. Hey, what's up? What's up? Whoever. Doing a great job. Check out the knives. They're like, hey, look at all the ones I built today. It's like, good job. Good job. And they're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're digging it. They're digging it. So it makes it good. I have my days.
We all do.
I have my days, and I could set the tone of the shop in a hurry if I come in a bad mood. Everybody usually like, okay, we're going to just have you come sit over here, have some coffee, eat a chocolate, eat a cookie. It'll make you feel better. Just like, I got you. I'm out of here for the day.
Like last night, I gave you French fries, made you feel better.
French fries did make me feel better, bro. Thank you. That's brotherly love right there. When you kept sliding the plate over. I'm like, swing that bitch around, trying to fucking keep myself toned.
Hey, but they were worth it.
I'll tell you what they were. The sandwich was good.
Sandwich was amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, next time you come up, man, we'll have to do some cooking or do something fun. If you
we'll
like
go
this.
Shooting with Ray. We'll do something.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. We'll blow some shit up for sure. But I know you're not drinking anything, but we have Voss water tonight, and I'm still enjoying a little bit of Don Julio. But what I was going to mention, again, I got a little something for you. Nothing crazy, but
appreciate it.
Pocket knife. I don't believe it's Cali legal, but we won't say that for the record. We could stub the blade and put like a 1.5 inch blade or some stub shit.
Why would we want to do something like
that? No, we
don't
want to do that, man. That would be no good. Who's the governor of California?
Newsom.
Oh, okay. Hi.
This is one sexy toy. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hey, by the way, we have an HK 53.
Do I get to take that home with me?
You could, dude, if you can get this back home and not be in the clinker. But yeah, so today's feature is a pre-86 dealer sample in pristine, unfired condition.
So that thing's brand new.
It is brand new. I have ones that I shoot, but this one, got really lucky to get this particular sample. Check it out. I'm going to make sure. Clear. Okay, there you go. Next time you come out, man, we'll shoot that. What a dream, man. What a just a great gun. Shoots 5.56. It's one of my favorites, yeah.
Single shot and then full auto.
Yeah, you got full auto. Yeah, it's got a Navy style grip on the base there.
One day in Cali. Or time to move to
I'm
Texas.
going back to Texas, bro. I love Texas.
Me and the wife are considering Texas.
Dude, I'll be out there one of these days. One way or another. I got to get closer to my son, Adam. But I love Texas. I have Sibo lives out there and everything else. So I got family out there, but I enjoy Texas, so anyway, Brian, welcome and thank you. And thank you for coming out, bro. It means a lot to me.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for having me in your home, buddy.
Thank you. Stay tuned for our next issue. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.